All right, good evening, everyone. This is Pastor Scott Anquay from St. Luke Missionary Baptist Church. Tonight, we are excited to have this budgeting and financial seminar. All right, good evening, everyone. This is Pastor Scott Anquay from St. Luke Missionary Baptist Church. Tonight, we are excited to have this
vaccine distribution to the Chicago primary and urgent care clinic.
We'll be starting in 2 minutes.
All right.
Okay, well, we'll go ahead and get started. Our presenter tonight is none other than Brian D. Johnson, the author of the great financial tool, the Budget Blueprint. He's going to take us through some financial lessons tonight, and I would encourage you to take a lot of notes. Also, he will let you know how you can get his book. If you are interested in more information, you can get his book either on Amazon or through him. But we want to make sure that we actually do have the book. I have suggested that you get the book ahead of time, so many of you may have already purchased it. But if you have not, we'll make sure you do get the book. And so we have allotted 2 hours for this seminar. We don't know if it's going to take that long, but we wanted to give him ample time to share and not feel rushed. And so at this time, I'm going to turn over the screen, the ability to share so that Mr. Johnson can get started. I'm
Awesome.
going to you as you come in to just check your mute button to make sure that you are muted so that there won't be any feedback. We didn't want to do it as a webinar so that at times where there's questions, you'll be able to ask questions of the presenter. And so again, as you come in, go ahead and mute. If you don't mute, I will mute you. Are muted so that you don't interrupt the presenter. And again, thank you so much for joining us. And at this time, let me introduce you to Brian Johnson. And you can go ahead and get started. And when you're ready to share your screen, let me know.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. All right. Hi, everyone. Hopefully everyone can hear me well. I want to first thank Pastor Scott for the opportunity to speak to everyone about this important subject of budgeting and money management. Now, I'm a little unorthodox in the route and the way in which I discuss and go about talking with regards to money. So tonight's conversation, I really want it to be that, exactly a conversation. So I encourage everyone, if you have a question during the conversation or as I'm going through the PowerPoint presentation a bit later, then feel free to raise your hand or to absolutely send a chat so that I can so that I can answer your question. So before we begin, I want to give a little bit about myself, who I am, what I do, where did I come from, and what led to writing this tool, the Budgeting Blueprint. So as Pastor Scott said, my name is Brian Johnson. And I am from the south side of Chicago. Wentworth Gardens, right on 39th Street, is where I grew up at, and was blessed with the opportunity at a very young age, around 19, to go and start working at Morgan Stanley. Morgan Stanley is a financial services company that a lot of individuals may know. They are really big when it comes to investing and institutional investing and things of that nature. So here it is, this young guy who've come from humble beginnings. I started at Morgan Stanley in about 2000 and learned a wealth of information. And anyone knows that if you've come from humble beginnings, we know that money and things are scarce. So I was extremely excited to learn as much as I could about finances, and it led me on my path to down the path to financial services. So working at Morgan Stanley for a while, I ended up working at a financial services company called Wachovia Securities at that time, and now they are Wells Fargo. And from there, I transitioned and worked at a few different banks and mutual fund companies and hedge fund companies. So I've acquired quite a wealth of information along the road. So one of the things that I've identified in my journey financially was that there's this information, these nuggets of information and wealth that was not readily available to me growing up, and that all centered around money. So fast forward, this is where I gained the wealth of the information. But again, coming from the community, I realized there was opportunity to merge those two, to make sure that individuals that not only look like me and that were in my community, that we actually took advantage of this information. So going down the road, fast forward a little bit, I realized I was not a salesperson, right? That's not my gift. That's not my blessing from God. But what I am passionate about is helping individuals and sharing information. So I realized at Morgan Stanley and working at some of these financial companies that there was a disconnect, or I would say an opportunity to provide the actual financial education piece. Individuals needed a little bit more handholding. What exactly does that mean? When we think about companies like you would think about a Wells Fargo or a Charles Schwab, we think about investing and the stock market and things of that nature. But I found that there was really a need for focusing on the behavioral part of our finances. What do we do with our money? I didn't see that information, like I said, referenced earlier, readily available in school. It wasn't really talked about that often. So with me identifying this need, I decided in 2012 to take my unorthodox approach, being charismatic, and I really wanted to add a different component to financial planning, whereas go beyond just the what investments you should invest in, but create some services around how can I help individuals reach their financial goals. So if your goal is to own a home, if your goal is to pay for this amazing wedding or vacation, how exactly are we going to get there? So going through all of that and the transition and working with individuals over the years, that led me to currently putting to action, I would say putting to paper, pen and pad, a actual manual that helps us reach those financial goals. I was blessed early on where when I worked at Morgan Stanley and I learned the importance of budgeting, because that's where it all centers around. And I realized, hey, when I was growing up, we didn't talk about managing our money. It was, we were thanking God, that we had the bare necessities. So here it is to transform and go from a mindset of being concerned about how we are going to survive and make it to understanding there is a way that to abundance and wealth if we just incorporate some simple tools. So through the years, we get to the book, right? So through the years, I observe that oftentimes we look at managing our money as something that's complex and difficult. And there are several books and several narratives on why we should invest our money or why we should budget our money. So when I started thinking about this actual the book that I created around budgeting and maximizing your money, I thought about what's going to be practical, right? So how can I make this book in the most simplistic way to help you reach your goal in 3 simple steps. And on tonight's call, what I want to do is go into what those 3 simple steps are, which are the keys to creating a successful budget. And these are the same keys that I've experienced in my personal life that led me to purchasing my first condo when I was 22 years old. Following the steps that's in this book and what we're going to cover tonight is what led to that. Investing, things of that nature, purchasing a car, making sure that I have sound credit, right? So these are all things that are extremely important to us. And what my goal was to cultivate and create a system that's going to make it make sense. Now, I know I'm practical, right? And in all that practicality, no one wants to read a narrative about an actual book, about what you should do. So my thoughts were most books are either very lengthy, but if we are able to take these steps and put it in a format that is actually, that includes illustrations, that breaks down every single element of our finances and how we put it together. Because oftentimes we tell you, and I'll use the terminology of my mom and my dad, baby, you need to make sure that you put some money to the side and baby, get on the budget. Where exactly how do we do that? What's the first step? What do I do with this money? So we're going to go through a little bit of that. We're going to start with going through some of the principles to create a sound budget, which is what we start with. And then we will transition the conversation to more focus on money management, answering some of your questions, why it's important to plan and do financial planning and what exactly that means, investing and things of that nature. So we want to have a real good conversation about our money and to go through some of these elements. Before I transition to the actual PowerPoint, because I know I said a lot, I'm long-winded. Are there any questions, thoughts, comments before we move on? I'm trying to make sure I see the top of the screen. All right.
If you can place your questions in the chat, I'll be monitoring the chat and I'll jump in and make sure that the questions are answered. You can always put your questions in the chat. Title of the book, The Blueprint. There you go. He already answered.
There we go.
All right, budget and blueprint. All right, so any other questions, just throw them in the chat and I'll make sure that Mr. Johnson gets those questions. All right, I'm gonna let him start sharing his screen now.
All right. Awesome. So bear with us as we go through these technical changes. Hopefully everyone's having a great time or has had a great day. And I'm really excited that we are all having this conversation on a Tuesday evening. So let me make sure I transition here. And I think we are good to go. So as I referenced earlier, I'm a people's person. So I like to talk and I like to engage. So for those of us that want to know what the budget blueprint itself looks like, this is a picture of the actual book itself. And I think I did the wave across here. We talked about who we are and a little bit about the purpose of why I created the Commonwealth Initiative, which is the name of the company. The Commonwealth is a financial services company that actually works with individuals and families to reach their financial goals around budgeting, around credit, wellness, investing. And I work specifically with entrepreneurs to help them start and expand and grow their businesses. As I referenced in my story a little bit earlier, we started this in 2012 with that mission in hand. So why do we budget? And we discussed, oftentimes we talk about budgeting. We know it's important, but we don't necessarily go through or discuss the steps to do that. So we want to make it as simple as possible. And in going through this process, I want us to talk about and think about our own financial situation and think about what happens and how we feel when we have money in the bank, right? Amen. So one of the things that we do, and is extremely important because at St. Luke Church, we need to have a method and a budget in place, right? So we have to give our money, our 10% to God, and we need to make sure that's accounted for. We need to also make sure that all of our needs and all of those things are met. So the way in which we do that, and to ensure that we are meeting our financial obligations, is by the use of a budget. So the very simple thing, it's not very long or drawn out, is the first step in putting together a budget is what I call categorization. So we categorize, and what that means is that everyone receives money every single month, or most of us, in some interval. So either monthly, if you work a job, twice a month, every 2 weeks. That is the amount of money that you have coming in, right? So what we have to categorize is not only the money that comes in, but what are the expenses that go out. So this is just a brief example of what exactly that looks like. So for some of us, that may be a paycheck that's in the amount of $2,000. I provide the example there. And we also have to account for other sources of income. So during the pandemic and at this period, a number of families are receiving SNAP benefits. So that's food stamps. So that's a form or a source of income. So we want to account for that, because that's going to be vital when we have to allocate expenses for, or I should say, allocate resources towards the expenses. All right. So it's a very simple process to separate your income, how much money you have coming in, and we are going to then separate our expenses. The next step in the process is to, once we have our income, how much money we have coming in every single month, and then we listed all of our expenses. What are our expenses? Our bill, our mortgage, our car note. Expenses include your Netflix account, any subscription services. You can even put in your expense category savings, investing, things of that nature. If you are planning for a trip, of course, tithes, offerings, those things have to be included in the expense bucket. So after we know what those expenses are, after we know what the income is and it's accounted for, we go through the next step, which is to label the bills. And what exactly is that? This is an example of a budget of organizing our expenses. And we organize expenses by listing our money, or how much money we have coming in, or what those sources are, by the actual due date, or I should say the actual date that you receive the money. So if you're paid twice a week, you're paid on the 1st and the 30th, those will be the days by which you would assign, or I should say you list the actual time that your money comes in. If you have bills and the cable is due on the 16th of the month, we want to list that information there. And it's extremely important to organize and provide as much detail in your budget as you can. Now, all of us are at different places, so there is no right or wrong way to actually have a budget. For those of us, for those of us who are a little traditional, we may take the approach where we use an actual notebook and we list every month what our expenses are. If we are a little tech savvy, some of us may use some apps on the phone to keep track of that information, or you may use a simple Excel spreadsheet. The main point, or I should say the main purpose, is for us to account and to make sure that we know what's happening within our finances. So after we organize our expenses and we've listed them by our bills by due date, what the bill is, how much we should be paying them, this is going to be vital and extremely important, because another main area of focus with our finances is our credit. So that if we are paying our bills timely, then that's going to have a positive effect on our credit report, right? So our goal in organizing is to make sure that every expense is paid in a timely manner. So that's the second step of the 3-step process. So we are going to categorize, first step. After we categorize, we know what our income, what our expenses are. Then we went in and to do the second step for your budget. We want to organize our expenses. We want to list when we are getting paid. We want to list what the actual bills are, all of them, the list of due dates and so forth. And this is where we also add in that category other expenses, goals, and things of that nature. If we are looking to to, let's say, pay off some debt, that expense category could operate in a capacity as a means for us to do so. So after we go past the actual categorize, organize, we go with the last step, which is to balance our finances. What is balancing? Balancing is making sure that, as my mom, my parents would say, you have enough money coming in every month to exceed what your expenses are every single month. So the last step in the process is the most important, because this is where we balance everything and we bring everything into perspective. Because like I said, the goal is to not only make sure that your income meets what your expenses are, but the goal is to have a little extra, to have some overflow. We want, the land flowing with milk and honey. We need to have a little bit extra. So, and then there are other things that we want to do for ourselves, investing in things of that nature. So these three simple steps are the keys to creating, let me stop sharing here, are the keys to creating a simple budget. And like I mentioned, oftentimes we look at our finances as very complex. So for some of us, like I said, get you some tea, and we're gonna start with the basics and grab all your bills and a letter opener and open your mail and start there, right? And then we're gonna go and we're gonna use a PowerPoint, not a PowerPoint, but an Excel spreadsheet, and start listing everything that we just referenced. That first step. We're going to go through that process and list that second step. Then we're going to say a prayer, and we're going to say a big prayer when we get to the organized option, because we know that's where it's going to test our faith a little bit, right? Because that's where we have to determine what the priority of expenses. Like, all right, I may be spending X amount of money going to get my hair and nails done, and things of that nature, or on coffee, Starbucks, or buying coffee, because a lot of us are at home. But this is where we get creative with the organization part, and we determine where we can allocate and where the priority of our expenses are. So I know I said quite a bit, but are there any questions about the budgeting process, the steps to budgeting, why we budget? Because that way we know what's coming in and going out in any of those categories before I move
on. Brother Johnson, there was a question about the Acorn app. I don't know if that's specific to what you're talking about. It said, was that a good, credible app, the Acorn app?
Absolutely. So we're gonna dive on into that. So now it sounds like we're going from glory to glory, right? So we're talking about the foundational basis of managing your money, and now someone is asking about Acorn. So once we have our budget in place and we have a few extra dollars allocated for investing, then we get to the step of putting that money into the market. So Acorn is an excellent app, just as well as some of the other ones. The Fidelity has an app, and these are apps, everyone, for investing in the stock market. So Acorn is an app that you can download on your phone. And with that app, you go through a few steps. You open the account, you link your bank account to the app, and then you can transfer money to this app so that you can start purchasing stocks, mutual funds, and things of that nature. So to answer the question specifically, I believe that's Brother Anthony. Yes, Acorn is a great app. Also, a few others to consider, and it depends on what level you are. And what I mean by level is where we are financially. So a lot of individuals look at some of what I would call untraditional avenues to get access to investing. And what I mean by that is as simple as using Cash App. Everyone's familiar with Cash App, right? You send money to your cousin, to your auntie Emma, going back and forth, but there also is an option there that allows you to actually invest in various stocks. And the reason why that's important is because Cash App and a few others, we've heard about Robinhood, we've heard about a few of the other apps out there, but there's this great option that allows you to buy fractions or portions, fractional shares of stock. So what that means is that if I have one whole stock and that stock is $100, and I don't have $100 at the time, I have a few options of what I can do. And when we use apps like Acorn and Cash App, this one stock may be $100, but using an app like Cash App, I can purchase fractions of that app. So this fraction would be $25, so forth. So if I only, or I should say, if I'm on a budget and I want to get access to the stock market, I can take a few dollars and purchase a fraction of a share of stock that generally I would have to have the full amount of the $100 to actually purchase. So I hope that makes sense. Let's take a step back again to make sure that I'm clear. So apps like Cash App, Acorn, they give us access to the stock market to be able to take small portions of money and buy and get into the market and buy fractions of shares of an actual stock. So I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, let me know. I can expound upon that a little bit more, but that's a great question.
A couple other questions. One was, does your book come with a budgeting worksheet?
It does. It does. So after we go through all of the steps and we give you diagrams and examples of how your actual budget should be broken down, we also have sections where you can list your notes. These pages are perforated. So you can actually not only write down and have an example of how you should have your actual budget, but you can list and write in the book itself, create your budget with your own worksheets, and then you can remove that portion of the book itself and keep the remaining portion for yourself as a reference. So it operates not only as a full illustration to make it easier and to make it make sense, that's what it's about, but it takes you through the steps of creating your own budget. And it's for everyone. So no matter what age range you are, generally elementary school, high school, college, or to aunts and uncles and grandparents, we can all utilize and I would say not take advantage, but we can glean from some of the principles that are in the book itself.
Another question in the chat is about Charles Schwab. Is that a okay company? I gather they're asking. And then there was a comment also about Charles Schwab, the Charles Schwab slices. So
okay, I'm not familiar with Charles Schwab slices, but Charles Schwab is one of those companies that I've referenced before. And again, I'm speaking as a financial educator and not endorsed by any of these companies, but a number of them, such as Charles Schwab, Fidelity, TD Ameritrade, these are all great companies that's in the marketplace that allow you access to the market. So yes, it depends on what your preference and your style of investing is. Me personally, I love and I really like a number of these different apps because of some of the research and the information that I can do on stocks and different things of that nature. So with Fidelity, for example, I can go and learn and put in an actual company that could be perceived or could be interested in purchasing or investing in, and I want to learn a little bit more. They have great tools that allow us access to do that.
Great. All right. Are there any other questions that would need to go into the chat? I use Ameritrade myself, but the app is.
That's another great TD Ameritrade.
But okay, proceed on. There's no questions at this time. Okay.
All right. So that's pretty much when we think about our finances and we think about the foundation, right? That's where it starts with. So no matter how successful or what we want to do, we have to have a budget, right? And once you have a budget, that's the foundational piece. Then we start going to the next level. There are steps. As we say, we go from glory to glory, right? We go from one level to the next level. So we start with that foundational piece. And then some of us, we look at the financial planning element. What are some of the other elements of that's key to our finances? Protecting ourselves, right? Protecting you. You've worked hard, or some of us, we are still working extremely hard to not only maintain, but to grow what we have. So things like life insurance is key. That's something in conversations we have to have in discussions. What are we doing with our investments? Are we investing in our 401ks at work? Are we maximizing that? Are we taking advantage of those options and opportunities? For those of us who are self-employed and work for ourselves, are we investing in retirement accounts? Because that is what's going to secure us later down the road. So we have to work every day to get the bag, as we generally hear this term saying, but now we also have to secure the bag. So we go from having the foundation, investing your money, making sure that we have a plan, because oftentimes we have no plan for our money. And we wonder, okay, God, I'm waiting for you to just drop it out. Well, these are the tools that help us get to where it is that we are envisioning, not only where we want to be with our lives, but where we want God to take us. And not only that, one of the most important things is estate planning, because what in the word itself, and I'm not a pastor, but what I recall it saying is that to leave an inheritance for your children's children. Now, in order to do that as a financial person, there are tools to leave money to your children's children. So if God is commanding us to do so, that means that we have to think about our financial planning. What is a financial plan? That means looking and making sure that we have a will, so that where do our assets go? Because anything that we own is a part of our estate. And oftentimes we think, oh, estate planning is for the rich. No, estate planning is creating a plan of where I want and my assets to go, how I want them to be organized, and where I want things to be directed after I'm gone. So the will is for after you transition. You've gone to glory in heaven. Now, what you gonna do with your stuff after you are gone, you praise it. So we need to have some instructions for the family while we are alive. And I like to add humor to make this a little light. But while we are alive, we've been dealing with the pandemic. It's also important to have powers of attorney. We talk about protecting ourselves, and that's one of the keys to do so. These are power of attorney for your property. If something, God forbid, were to happen, and we're being tested and tried, and we don't have the capacity to, to operate on our own and to pay our bills, who's going to do that? Who's going to go in and pay your bill if something happens, and pay the rent, and things of that nature? I have a close friend of mine who's dealing with something similar, where a family member is incapacitated as a result of COVID, and my friend cannot access his parents' financial accounts to pay the rent because he doesn't have a power of attorney. There isn't a form to say, I'm giving access, a person that I trust, permission in the event something happens to me to go to Chase Bank, Wells Fargo, and to pay my rent and to pay my bills. That's vital. So power of attorney for property, power of attorney for healthcare. What if something happens and we are incapacitated? What are the instructions on how I want my health care and what decisions I want to be made? Do I want to stay here? Do I want to, my quality of life? Things that sometimes is difficult to talk about. Oftentimes we think it's complex, but they're extremely important in this climate. So that's another one. And then one of the tools that we don't often talk about is a revocable living trust. Revocable, meaning you have the ability to change it. You don't like somebody got on your nerve, you can go and change it. I want to leave. I originally decided to leave a family member this amount of money. Well, cousin Emma been working my nerve. I want to change her percentage and leave her just a little bit and change it. So a trust is a documentation that basically instructs what's to happen with your assets now, and what are to happen with those assets afterwards. Why is that important? Oftentimes, when you pass away, and if some of us, I'm sure we know, have either experienced this in our lives, or we know someone that has gone through this process where someone dear and beloved has transitioned and went on to glory, and then they left a mess for the family. So, and if there are assets that are sizable, you have to go to court, and that process is called probate. And oftentimes, and this is from an education standpoint, that costs money to go to court to determine where your assets go. Why? Because you're no longer here. So that's the reason why a judge has to sign off and say, all right, Miss Emma went on to glory now. She left a will and said it should go here. This should go to her son. This should go to X, Y, and Z. The judge validates to make sure that's okay. Stamp of approval. Now you have permission to go and do what needs to be done. That's a lengthy process. Your business is all in the court records because when you go through probate, your information is out there. I know because family members that's gone through the process. I have a family member that I begged when I started in 2000 and I learned about a trust. I was like, wait a minute, these folk are using trust to pass on wealth from one generation to the next. Well, that sounds like that's what we was instructed in the Bible to do. So that seems like check. All right, on the list of what needs to happen. We need to have one of those, granddad, grandma. They didn't see the value at the time until it was too late. So my point in my reference is that these are the tools. These are some of the things that we can use from a financial planning perspective that can protect us, because this is what we've worked hard for over the years to get to a certain point. And the important thing is your legacy, your legacy. We all have a legacy. God has given us all gifts, talents, and abilities. And some of those things you can't repent for them. So what are we leaving to the next generation? So protecting yourself from an estate planning process, that's vital. Making sure you're protecting your money. That means budgeting, having some controls in place, investing your money. There's been a lot of brilliant questions about investing in finance and how to make your money make money, because that's the mission and that's the goal, is to protect and grow what we have. Amen. Can the church say yeah? Don't get me to start singing, y'all. Now I've been talking here. I need a little back and forth. I know Pastor Scott on the call, but I need to see a smile. I thank you, Sister Sharon Patterson on the call. I see you smiling. I see some faces over there. So y'all got to give me a word or wave a hand or do something to let me know I'm on point. So I say that all to say and recap, these are some of the vital things and financial tools that are extremely beneficial and that can really help us get to our goal. You want to pay off your home, you need a budget. You want to improve and increase your credit, start with a budget. Determine how much money you're going to allocate towards paying off debt. Simple things. You want to invest in the market and you're scared, download one of the apps and start pulling or researching and pulling information. Put a few dollars in there. If you have Cash App, $5 and buy you a piece of I should say a fraction of a share of stock. If you need additional information, we have to start and have these conversations because it's important. And not only is it important to protect us, but it is vital for us to go to the next level in our lives with that. All right, I feel like I'm in. Yes, sir.
Do we need an attorney to write the will, power of attorney, and revocable trust?
That is an option. So you have a few options to actually go about and do that. You can go to an attorney, and if you have a complex, estate plan, and you need advice and legal help with giving you direction, then absolutely you're going to go to an attorney for that. If you are on a budget, and a lot of us are on what? A budget. We have a plan. Then there are other options. You have LegalZoom. You have other options of that nature. And last but not least, you have me, the Commonwealth Initiative by education. I don't think I mentioned that to everyone. Paralegal by education, went to Loyola University, Chicago, Harold Washington, and degree in management and all that other great stuff. But CWI, we have an amazing package where we do not provide legal advice, but as a financial planner, we put together this amazing package for you with your will, your trust, your estate plan for individuals and couples. So you can always go to cwimoney.com, that's the website, and you can review the information that's there on estate planning, or you can always schedule a free consultation and speak to either myself or one of the members of our team, and we can get you taken care of. Great question. All right, no. Are these forms available online to download? Ms. Patterson, the estate planning document forms, you can. So here's the difference of why would someone pay someone to put this together. You can take the time, because a lot of us, we're just twiddling our thumbs and we have hours on hours to research this, but you can easily go on Google and look up power of attorney forms and a will and template and fill it out yourself, go through the process. Or you can go to a professional if you have a simple estate and you want it put together and you want it done the right way. And that's where a company like myself, the Commonwealth Initiative, a LegalZoom, other companies like that come into place. Or if you have a complex, that means you already in the land of milk and honey, you beyond budget, everything is just overflowing, and you want an elaborate, a irrevocable trust, and you're doing a lot of various things, and you need legal advice, then you should speak with an attorney. So depending on where you are, you want to go the basic route, the most economical, go on Google, go do some research, spend you a few hours. There are some rules around executing your will, your power of attorney. So be knowledgeable about that. You can go to, like I said, another company intermediary, and they're going to save you money. So companies like mine and LegalZoom, we save you a lot of money because we eliminate a lot of the actual legal advice part. So we may have some attorneys on the line. Praise the Lord. Raise your hand. Let the folk know you're here. Let the church say, yeah, if you are an attorney. But yes, absolutely. That's how we go about that. The website, again, it is cwimoney.com. And so this is what I do. So I love talking. I love sharing information. For me, that's the best feeling in the world to learn some information and see someone use principles that can really take their finances to the next level, because that's what it's about. I personally am not a commission type of person where let's sell a product. I want to sit down, we talk to you, we find out what it is from a financial standpoint your goals are, and we help you get to that level. So as an example, these are the things that we go through and what we call coaching in financial planning, to give you an idea of what that actual process looks like.
Brian, when you coach individuals, have you been able to help people identify waste in their spending?
Great question, Pastor Scott. Absolutely. So when individuals come to CWI, we have a few services that actually help with that scenario. One of them is called the wealth plan. A part of the wealth plan is where we sit down. We have 3 sessions virtually for an hour. And the first thing that we do is we are going to do a financial analysis to determine where you are. So we are going to go through the process. How much do you have coming in? What are your expenses? What are the goals, and what are we trying to do? And then from there, we create a plan for your wealth. If your goal is to increase your credit and improve your credit, then we have to work on making sure that there's a foundation for that. Because how many individuals do we know that started a credit wellness program and they have laid hands and resurrected your credit, but then we don't have the systems in place, the budget, the foundation to keep it going. So that's what we do. We help you with those fundamental things. So hopefully that answers the question.
Any other questions before we move on?
All right, now, so this is the conversation, the Tuesday evening dialogue. So if there aren't any questions, if there are some scenarios or some comments, some words of wisdom, we have about 15 more minutes or so, and we've gone through rather quickly because I'm a pretty fast talker, and I try to slow it down sometimes. But this is a great opportunity for us to have some dialogue, because you on the other end may have some information to share with us, some things that can help us and inspire us to get to the next level with our finances. So it's not a speaker knows, and this is just that scenario. This is a conversation, and the types of conversations that I encourage us to have, at the dinner table, when you're on lunch. Hey, what are we doing with our money? Hey, cousin Roscoe, do you have life insurance? because we don't necessarily want to have a PayPal or not a PayPal. What is it? The GoFundMe route. So we want to do things decently and in order. Amen.
There was
Amen.
on one of your slides, you showed that the individual had less money coming in than what was required.
Yes, sir.
I think there was a deficit of $150 on that one of your slides. How do you go about fixing when you see your income less than what is needed to cover your expenses?
That's a great exercise. And I was joking earlier when I referenced the point. This is when you say a prayer and you make sure that we're in a good headspace. So some of the things that we do and we help individuals first is to identify of your expenses, which ones are fixed, meaning they do not change month by month. Fixed is your rent. That's essentially the same. Your car notes are essentially the same every month. Excuse me. Certain bills such as your light bill, the gas bill, that will be considered a variable expense. Your credit card bill, those are variable. Food, dining, things of that nature, those are expenses that change based on consumption and things of that nature. So if you are at a deficit, this is where and why it's important and key to list your expenses, list when they're due, list the actual amount so we can go through in this scenario and see where exactly do I need to adjust some funds so that I can, for this month or this pay period, break even at least. So rent, let's go through scenario. So rent cannot be changed, right? So that's something at this very point has to be paid. That's a fixed expense. Your credit card, there may be some flexibility. So if you have a goal to pay off your debt, your minimum payment on your credit card may be $30, but you are sending them, in this example, $100. So $30 is required, but that means we have $70 of cushion if need be. So we're going to keep that in mind. And we go through the remaining bills. New York life insurance, you need life insurance. So we cannot not pay that bill. A charge card, that's another thing. If you have an American Express, that's generally whatever fees or whatever charges you have, you pay that, the whole balance, unless it's an actual credit card form. So the goal is, and I'm using this as an example of what we do, is to look at every expense and see, okay, I've gone through here. I have a $150 deficit. I have some flexibility with the credit card because I have about $70 that I can move from that. So even if I reduce that to $50, the credit card bill, I have $50 to allocate towards the deficit. If I move down to groceries, I'm not about to skip on eating. We're going to eat right and we're going to, save, but we need to eat to survive. However, when I look at my miscellaneous expenses, and those are, going out to eat, on the town, those expenses could be entertainment, that could be going to roller skate, whatever it is that you do for extracurricular things, that's comes out of your entertainment, that actual bucket. So what then I would do, Pastor Scott, is I would take $50 from the credit card category, and I would take another $100 from the miscellaneous category, which would leave me 50 in miscellaneous. That means I'm going to sacrifice this pay period. And then I would take that amount of money, and that would make up for the deficit. So we would break even. This is the example of what I just went through, of what we call the balancing aspect of your budget, because we all have income, we all have expenses. Once we know what those are and we organize them, it makes it so much easier to go through and say, hey, okay, now I'm spending this amount of money here. Now I'm short 200 this month, but I have, I'm spending X, Y, and Z on, a number of other expenses that may not necessarily be beneficial. I have the opportunity and the power and the ability to make some changes, because we are the CFOs of our own financial lives, right? The chief financial officer. So this empowers us with a budget to see where we are so that we can make wise decisions with our money. That way you have a huge, a big I would say a landscape of where you are financially. And not only do you have a landscape of where you are financially, but think about if you want to, you include a goal into that. So now think about the budget, it's balanced. You have a few extra dollars surplus after you've organized and balanced everything. You can take then that money that's left over, even if it's $5, $10, whatever it is, and make sure that you are investing in yourself and the things you need.
Another question. Someone said, credit card debt is my issue, paying them on time. I'm paying them on time, but I want to get rid of the card. Which card should I pay down first?
That is a very that's a broad scenario. So let's paint this picture and add a little bit of color. So I'm gonna grab the brush and we're gonna be Picasso. So there are a few different methods we can take to actually eliminate debt, right? So we're thinking about this from a practical standpoint. If you, and like I did in the last example, if I would, one, determine how much credit card debt you have, what's the interest rate on those individual cards? They have to be detailed, know what the actual balances are, and know what your minimum payments are. So I know that I will add those up and say, hey, I have, let's say, a total of $250 worth of minimum payments on my credit card. But in my bucket, I have $350 of money. That's why we have these buckets and categories. So what I'm going to do is pay that minimum amount of $250 on the credit cards, and then I'm going to take that additional $100 and start applying it to one of the credit cards each and every month. Now you may ask, oh, should I pay the one with the highest debt? My thing is, we're going to be practical. If your highest credit card is $25,000, there will be no joy coming from paying off this debt plan. So what we're going to do is start with the smaller balances, because what happens is that when you pay down that credit card, it could have a balance of $300, $400, $500. Once that's paid off, you're going to feel excited. And it is a milestone financially that you have met. You can turn up and celebrate. Praise God. So once you've paid off that debt, then you're going to take the monies that you were putting towards that one credit card. Let's hypothetically, you have 5. You've paid off one $500 card. So whatever that minimum balance was and that extra $100 you were allocating, now we're going to take that and apply that to this one. So what happens is this snowball effect where you begin to pay off your debt. So to answer your question in a very broad way, that's something that you can do, or one of the strategies that we work on, and it depends on your individual scenario. And that's why it's important to sit down with a financial person to figure out what's the best course of action for you. So hopefully that answers the question, though.
I don't see any more questions at this point.
Hey, man.
But she said,
I see the technology. She said, thank you and yes. It was answered. Won't he do it? Yes, he will. All right. All right. I know we have some wisdom out there for these next few 7 minutes. I know we have some questions in the back of our minds that's been burning, some scenarios of what we should do with our money, from a financial scenario, from an estate planning, life insurance, investing. If you are an entrepreneur, this is another way, another avenue that one can take to make sure there are multiple streams of income, right? You have to have a budget if you're starting a business. How are you knowing if you're making money? We have to know what's coming in and going out. So no matter what industry, what category you are in, personal, professional, we all use a budget. Pastor has a budget. There's a budget for the church. There's a plan of the Lord to redeem you. And there's a plan for our lives to have a budget. Amen. So we see how that all interconnects. All right.
Okay. I actually have a question, since there's no questions. Why is it important to match your 401k or maximize your 401k if your company is matching a certain amount of percentages?
It's free money. Very simply, it's free money. So your job will give you and match sometimes we'll put in a little bit more. So if you are if you have it work for a company that provides a 401k, and if you put in $100 out of your paycheck, which there are some tax advantages and benefits for doing so, then sometimes your company will match what you put in up to a certain percentage. So essentially, you are receiving free money. But the key is that you have to what? You have to put your faith and some works. Faith without the works is dead. So you have to put your money in there, and then magically the faith comes and your employer is going to match that money. So how does that help you? If you're just putting $100 and investing in your retirement, and now you think about incorporating in your employer is putting money in there as well, your retirement will grow faster and you will have more money down the road. So the short and simple answer, Pastor Scott, it's free money that your employer is giving. So you should absolutely take advantage of that if you have the option to do so.
So the next question is, why is to invest more than what the company is matching? Example, company does 6%, I'm investing more.
That is, well, okay. So that's a good point and a good reference. That's case by case scenario, and it depends on your situation. So I'll give you a story. So someone may decide, well, if your company is only going to match you up to 6%, and you want to just put a little bit more, you have that option. Or you could say, I'm only putting as much as my company is giving me the free money, the blessings, the rain from heaven. And then I'm going to take my other money and I'm going to put that in a different type of financial instrument, such as a Roth IRA, if you are within that income range. That way, because there are a number of other advantages and benefits. So my philosophy generally is invest as much as you can, up to the max, within your budget with your job. And then any additional monies after that, you can then put those either in some type of your own personal Roth IRA, or you can put those monies in real estate, put that money into other types of precious metals and things of that nature. So there's so many different options for financial tools depending on what you are interested in. That was a great question.
Great. All right. Let me see. Any
okay.
She gave you a thumbs up too. Wonderful.
All righty. Now I feel like Miss LaShondra Graves asked a question. 7K owes 12K in rent and the monthly. So I'm assuming 7K in credit. Is Miss LaShonda on the call? You don't have to put the video, but is that all right? Elegance all on the phone, all on the screen here. Can you elaborate a little bit more, beloved?
Let me take her off mute. Okay, there you go.
Okay, so what I was saying was the client received a $7,000 one-time payment, and they owe $12,000 in rent because of the eviction moratorium. The rent is $1,000. And if they're trying to get into a payment plan, what would be the magic number? I mean, how much should they pay towards the back rent? And should they pay a couple months of the current rent up front? They only have $7,000. Now, the income is $2,000 a month. I know. You said scenario, so.
So, well, the first thing I would want to know is, has this family applied for any of the grants that are available that are helping renters? Because there are a number of different programs and things out there. So without knowing all the details, the second question I would ask is, what are some of the specific details of a lease agreement? What are the terms? And if the landlord is open to negotiate. So I think it depends on the scenario, because if there if the landlord isn't willing to negotiate and go through this process, then we may have to look at some other options of moving and things of that nature. The most important thing, and I know this may be a little difficult, but we have to protect ourselves. It sounds like a bad scenario, but it's don't release all those funds just yet. You want to make sure that you have something in place as a reserve to protect you, especially in this season and this climate that we're in. So my recommendation, without knowing all of the details, is one, see what grants are available. Secondly, I would definitely see what options the tenant can work out with the landlord, because it could be an arrangement that they would be willing. They may have to sign some new documents and things of that nature, but there are options. We have not because we ask not.
All right. Thank you.
Great. No problem. Great question. All right. We are at that 7 p.m. Time, and these are some amazing questions. I do have the availability to go on longer. It's really up to you guys, but I think that we have really had some great dialogue, and my goal was that we understand the importance. So despite, aside from the humor and things of that nature, I want us to be a little bit more relaxed and to begin to have these conversations about our money. Why? Because it not only impacts us every single day. That's the reason why we get up and go to work. It's to make money. So to make sure that we are managing it, being wise stewards of our money. And this is essentially what this book, The Budgeting Blueprint, is about. Every teenager, every young adult, every adult should have it, simple to read, but it's about being a good steward of your finances. Once you are a great steward of your finances and we are making wise decisions, then we go to the next level and we talk about some of those things. Investing. There's so many options out there. And it's not just putting your money in the stock market. I'm a person that looks at the holistic part. We look at your behavior as well as your money at CWI. And just like we talk about investing in the market, oftentimes we don't know there are other options to invest in. This is what we consider silver coins. This is literally, we got the cameras and things going in the background. So to zoom in, I am a firm believer on, we like that song, I'd rather have Jesus than silver and gold, right? God talked about silver and gold in the Bible. So why don't we own some of it? So this is another financial instrument that could be appealing to some of the younger generation and middle age and our wiser generation. But silver and gold, it actually, the price of those precious metals or commodities, they move just like, or I should say, the price changes just like the stock market. So my purpose was that not only is there stocks, bonds, mutual funds, there are tangible things like silver and gold coins that has value that can be an option for individuals to invest in.
All right. I think, was there anybody waiting in the waiting room? Did you know?
You know what, Pastor Scott? I think I just, I saw someone mention to allow someone in. So I believe I just admitted 3 individuals in the room.
Okay. All right. Wonderful. All right. Well, I think, okay, let's see. Okay. So I think we have gathered quite a bit of information tonight.
Indeed.
And I don't see any more questions. And now, has everyone had opportunity to find the book? Again, you can go on Amazon and type in
The Budgeting Blueprint. Yes.
And by Brian D. Johnson, and you can either have it sent to you, or you can reach out to him and allow him to send it by way of email to you.
Exactly.
So, and if you have not got the book already, any questions about receiving the book? All right. Any questions about any of the information? Tia, sorry that you were locked out of the room there. I turned over the controls to Mr. Johnson, so I wasn't monitoring.
Oh.
Okay, contact information, could you please put that in the chat, Mr. Johnson?
Yes, sir. So I've listed the contact information in there. So just again, everyone, the website for the company is cwimoney.com. And then that actual handle, if you are on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, CWI Money across all the platforms, you can find us there. There's a wealth of information of what we do. Not only I am passionate as the founder of CWI, I'm passionate about financial education and helping us get to the next level. So we work and do a lot of things with the youth and making sure that they understand the importance of financial education and budgeting. I did not discuss Bitcoin because it did not come up, but that's a great one. And I'll dive into that in a second. But what is extremely important is that we understand the importance of managing our money and teaching our babies and the young generation the importance of doing so. So when we teach them young and we get these concepts, it allows us to have more financial, or I should say to experience financial wellness. Now, one of the things that I see in the chat, which is great. Thank you, Tasha. I appreciate that. Did he discuss Bitcoin? So I will say, Ms. Tia, what is your specific question about Bitcoin? Because we did not discuss it. What we did do was we went through the elements of budgeting. We talked about the importance of estate planning and having a will, trust, power of attorney in place. We discussed a few scenarios around insurance. We don't want to do GoFundMes. That's not the way of the Lord or the will of the Lord. So it's important to have life insurance and things of that nature. And we discussed some investing options like using Cash App to invest. I believe a brother referenced Acorn. Pastor Scott referenced TD Ameritrade and Fidelity. So we had a deep dive of various components. Now, Bitcoin is another one of those, is a cryptocurrency that we've also heard quite a bit about. And so once we have a budget in place, which is the principle, we have some money aside. And if you are interested in investing in a digital currency, so I have put up in reference a coin as in an investment, the difference, or imagine a cryptocurrency as a digital one of these. So it is a means of exchange, the cryptocurrency, and of course, as the other instruments, it has value, perceived value, and the price changes. So this is the new crave, the new technology of where currency is going. So if you are interested in investment in Bitcoin or Ethereum or some of the other, a number of different cryptocurrencies, it's really simple. Like we referenced earlier, you can utilize your phone. You can go and download, for example, an app called Coinbase, Coinbase. Download it, attach it, connect it to your account, and then you start. And you can start. All right. All right, we're gonna go with the flow until we get it. Look at God. Won't he do it? All right. So we just go on with the spirit. We just flow with the spirit. All right. So what you can do is thank you for that music interlude there. But it's really simple. Download the app for to purchase cryptocurrency or Bitcoin and things of that nature. Make sure that you are knowledgeable about what you are investing in, because again, it is an investment, but access to the platform and access to the system is really straightforward. I hope that answers the question. Awesome. Use Coinbase to trade. Okay, sounds great. That was a good question about cryptocurrency. I think we covered quite a few categories to have a financial wellness and a financial empowerment webinar. And I really want to say, Pastor Scott and St. Luke Church, I am really impressed with you guys for bringing this information, because it's vital within our community. We need to have these types of conversations. And if we don't have this conversation and are proactive and making sure that our babies know how to budget and all these important things, then we are repeating this spirit of poverty and continuing the cycle going on. So if we are even can just bear to be uncomfortable a little bit and to learn a little bit of information, and it doesn't have to be overbearing. You can go to YouTube. I believe we are on YouTube right now, and research some of these various topics, because you guys had us talking about quite a spectrum there. But a little bit and you just continue to build upon that. And we share that information, it begins to create something that's dynamic. And I'm gonna share this with you guys from a personal perspective. And the reason why it's so important to invest, and not just investing, and it starts with where we are with our family. Something that was important to me, I remember this was a few years ago, actually about 10 years ago, 10 years ago, I decided like, hey, we're changing this poverty mentality in my family. So I came from humble beginnings. We see the urbanness here, in the tone. We have on the suit, praise God. But however, I had to talk to my family and say, look, we have this information here. We've lost family members, and we've not changed anything along the way. So what I decided to do was get with all my cousins on my dad's side. I got my uncle, my dad, and my uncle owns a boat. So we would go out or what have you, generally every month during the summer months here in Chicago. And I was like, okay, let me get this straight. We all get together every single month and we're not pooling our resources together. So what we decided to do was, hey, we're going to start in a family investment club. So me and my first cousins, all the men, you get all the women, however you choose to do it. But the concept is around family. And if you don't have family, the God-given family that he gave to you, your circle. All right. So what we would do is we decided we are going to invest $60 every single month. And we got together and we formed an LLC and we called it the Johnson Family, whatever it was called, X, Y, and Z, privacy protection. All right. So we created this entity, and then we decided we were going to run this like an organization. So we opened us a actual brokerage account in the name of the family LLC, and every month we assigned different roles and tasks for all of the 6 or 7 members that was a part of the initial family investment group. We had someone that was responsible. My dad was responsible for making sure the food was there because it's important to have food. So we had a few things set in stone. We're going to put in $60 a month. $10 is going to go towards recreational stuff because the fellowship, us coming together every month, we need to pay for those, the food, the sodas, the snacks. And then for every individual person of that 60, $50 will go towards the investment. So to be clear, 7, 8 of us together, we meet every month. Every member of the investment group has a particular job. Some of us were responsible for making sure we had the cookies and the snacks. Snacks are important. So we had my cousin who was responsible for collecting the funds and the money. And then every time that we got together every month, we would sit down and it was really simple, 30 minutes. Okay, guys, we have $100 in the investment pot. What stocks are we going to invest in? What mutual funds are we going to invest in? Okay, this is what's budgeted for my dad purchasing food and things of that nature. So, and what happened with that is it created a bond. It created this sense of togetherness, because now my dad is talking about stocks and mutual funds, and that was the furthest thing from his mind at that time. My younger cousins are now getting wisdom from the older generation, and we all come together every single month to have fun, and we go through, this is how much money we have. So it was an empowering thing. I say that only to say is that we can be creative with our finances, and these are some of the things that we can do with our families, with our friends, to change the narrative. We can start with a little bit, and it doesn't have to be as formal as what my family did, but you can get with your friend, your best friend. Hey, we don't have to commingle funds. You have your account, I have my account. But what we are going to do is to commit to meeting once a month. If we're going to talk about, hey, we're going to put money in the market and we're going to talk about investing. I don't know about it. If you don't know about it, we're going to learn about it, because there's someone that's out there that may be familiar or have a little bit of information. So I get very passionate about it because I realize the benefits, like I shared, when you take this information from me working in the financial services for so many years and realizing that if we have the faith and put some works behind this faith now, and there are some things that how we can really transform our financial lives. Amen. Let the church say, yeah, yeah. So y'all, okay, now don't get quiet on me. I'm gonna start singing. Amen.
We with you. Very good.
All right. All right.
right. Book ordered. All right. Who else ordered the book?
Thank you. Gratitude. I appreciate that. Indeed. Great questions, guys.
Well, we are, listen, I'm just super excited that you spent the time to be with us tonight. And
It's
in
an honor.
position
It's an-
of not asking for anything, not trying to sell anything, but just trying to share information. And so I just really want to make sure we bless you and your organization. So if you can put your Cash App there, if you don't want to buy the book, put your Cash App in the chat. So
I appreciate that.
So we can send you a blessing for sharing. No, this is valuable information. It is on Amazon, Amazon. You can order the book tonight if you like. But for those that don't plan on ordering the book, type it in there. The Cash App, we're gonna.
I really appreciate that. I want to thank you, Pastor Scott, and all of you guys for even taking the time and to have this engaging conversation, because again, as Pastor Scott mentioned, it's really about the information. Yes, we talk about a lot about the book, and it's an honor to speak to you guys about what I'm passionate about, and it's helping us manage our money well. So it's always my pleasure to serve the community and to be of service to individuals, and to do so in a way that's going to help empower us. So it's been an absolute delight, and it's an honor and a privilege to even speak before you guys about what I'm passionate about over here with the financial education. And thank each and every one of you guys. I see that for ordering the book. That means a lot. And once you receive it, by all means, list a review. If you have some thoughts and concerns, I provided my email address. Everyone can reach me. My personal email address is brian.johnson@CWI Money if you have questions and thoughts and things of that nature. Otherwise, like Pastor Scott said, we are here to serve the community and to serve you. This is what it's all about.
Well, thank you, everyone. We are at that point now, and we have solicited all the questions we can, and we just don't want to give you time, so I'm gonna give you a little bit of time back.
Appreciate that.
Please reach out to our brother Johnson and let him know you appreciate what he has shared with you tonight. And again, it was very good information. Thank you, whoever's iPhone that is. And we're going to let you go. And
Alrighty.
everyone have a good night.
You too.
Joining Congress, you can join Congress after this. But again, thank you for your time, and I really appreciate you. All right.